if we want to consult the public to see what the public would think about complicated, difficult issues, we need an institutional design that will make it possible to effectively motivate a representative sample to deliberate. And that's basically, by deliberate, I mean think about the issue under good conditions. So the deliberative poll is a really, really simple idea. It's really simple. It's just the idea of taking a really good random sample, and as you know, as social scientists, the best way to represent a population is through random sampling, rigorously applied. And you always have to worry about any biases in the sample, but it turns out the projects in the Resilience African Network have been extraordinary by world standards in terms of the way the random sampling has been applied. I'll get back to that. So you get a really good sample, and you survey them initially, and that reflects their opinions before they thought about it. Then you engage them to seriously discuss the pros and cons of competing policy options that have been worked out by a carefully balanced and potentially impactful advisory group. And then you survey them again at the end. Now, and then you find out what they really think after they've had a good chance to think about it. So it's a very simple idea. Random selection of households, random selection of persons within the households, that's one of the gold standard ways of getting a sample. There were 210 initial interviews, only 11 people refused to take the initial survey, and 201 completed the 2 days of deliberation. In Bududa, it was very similar. 232 initial interviews, 11 refusals, 217 completed the 2 days. If you do conventional public opinion polling, survey research, there is a problem that for complicated public issues, the public usually is not engaged or thinking very much. Why should they be? They're trying to survive. They're earning a living. Public issues, shared issues, are things that individually most citizens cannot have a big effect about, and so it's more cost effective for their time for them to focus on surviving. So, if we want to consult the public to see what the public would think about complicated, difficult issues, we need an institutional design that will make it possible to effectively motivate a representative sample to deliberate. And that's basically, by deliberate, I mean think about the issue under good conditions. So the deliberative poll is a really, really simple idea. It's really simple. It's just the idea of taking a really good random sample, and as you know, as social scientists, the best way to represent a population is through random sampling, rigorously applied. And you always have to worry about any biases in the sample, but it turns out the projects in the Resilience African Network have been extraordinary by world standards in terms of the way the random sampling has been applied. I'll get back to that. So you get a really good sample, and you survey them initially, and that reflects their opinions before they thought about it. Then you engage them to seriously discuss the pros and cons of competing policy options that have been worked out by a carefully balanced and potentially impactful advisory group. And then you survey them again at the end. Now, and then you find out what they really think after they've had a good chance to think about it. So it's a very simple idea. Most people do not have access to toilets, and there are these terrible public toilets, which were actually in the video, so anybody who sees the video can see what they look like, and the fact that the water from those public toilets is being used to raise the vegetables is really a public health concern. So, yeah, there are too many results here for me to go through, but there were lots of significant changes. And the point of the whole exercise is to think about, we consult the community about what it would support and what it wouldn't support and for what reasons. And we actually put both in Bududa and Budaleja and then in Tamale, we put the whole community in one room where it could think in an effective way for 2 days about which were the things that were worth doing and which of the things were not worth doing. And then we convened the advisors and the people, and now we're going to convene the advisors again to hear from the people. So this is not the people hearing from the advisors, this is the advisors hearing from the people, but in a systematic way that includes everybody. Every citizen of Tamale had an equal random chance of being selected. And so indeed, for the RAN, all the skills that Key has imbued in the teams to analyze qualitative work can be used on these transcripts, and has been to some extent, and can be used more. So building on listening to the people in suggestive ways, this is systematic. So really, I think that's all I have to say, except that we're hoping to do more projects in the RAN in other countries, and we think that this will allow us to take the whole journey from conceiving of the problem, thinking about the issues, thinking about policy options, testing the policy options systematically with the people. And notice, in these projects, we are able to test 36 policy options at one go over 2 days, and to get their reactions.
I like the approach because it is quantitative, but you are talking about representation of the entire population. For instance, Bududa, and you say you selected household. I wanted to get a little bit more because I know Bududa is in the entire district, or it's a big area of sub-county.
Right.
And you picked 210 households. I mean, how were they distributed? Because you know the problem we have, like in these countries, we don't have the listings.
Yeah. Well,
something, and also when it comes to
this was a geographically based sample of households, and actually Nathan is the one who did it, so maybe he should describe how he had ensured adequate geographical coverage of the areas in Bududa.
Yeah, thank you. The selection was based on the level of risk, because we are dealing with disasters. So we chose sub-counties based on the risk. High risk, we chose sub-counties that are proportionate to the number of sub-counties that are high risk, based on the assessment that was done by the Office of the Prime Minister. So we selected 3 districts, sub-counties from the high risk, then we selected 2 sub-counties from the low risk, and then 2 sub-counties from no risk. So that's what guided our selection.
And then within the sub-counties, how did you select the households?
Within the sub-counties, we selected the number that was proportional to the population within that district. And then randomly selected the households, and then randomly selected the participants within the households.
Just to add something to that. On the issue of the means, how they come about, the questionnaire was an attitude scale. So the outputs were numerical, and it was a scale, Likert scales from 0 to 10. So each person had an aggregate score, so it would compute the mean for the entire sample. Of course, it raised the issue of at analysis whether we would use the t-test or the Wilcoxon sign ransom test. So there was quite some debate on that. But Stanford has been doing this for quite some time, and they have articles that show that indeed the t-test behaves the same. So even we run our data using both the t-test and the Wilcoxon sign ransom test, and we're getting the same variables that were statistically significant. So that one was like that. Yes. On the issue of the sample was not selected to get small area specific statistics. It was representation of the district. So So although, yeah.
So,
Another question?
yes,
If that is the case, Roy, do you put confidence intervals on your estimates?
What's that?
Do you put confidence intervals on your estimates?
Well, we have the p-values for every, for
Okay,
every,
about p-values.
we have the p-values for every
That will
question.
make Assessor happy.
Yeah, we have the p-values in the, it's in the
I was
report.
expecting them on the graphs actually. Make more sense before.
because I've never, well,
Well, my concern has always been around type 1 error, to the extent that how do you interpret, first of all, you've got single, this is one of the advantages of data reduction, is to get away from analyzing 100 questions, and you have a natural chance that 5 of them will be significant. That's the rule of statistics, even though they are not significant.
Sure.
So the question is, you need to correct that. I don't know how much correction was done for that. Secondly, t-test is just not t-tests. There are 200 people, depending on the distribution. It could be t-tests for unequal variances. So it's not about just t-tests. And I cannot believe t-tests for unequal variances would give the same results for t-tests for equal
Well,
variances.
we analyze this a lot of different ways. This is just a kind of summary.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just making sure that what Rob puts out, we don't make the assumption that this is the way it was done, therefore it's correct. It's time for us to do it
Yeah, but there were a lot of changes. I forget, was it 26 out of 39 in Ghana? There were a lot of changes, and we also turned the questions into policy indices for certain purposes and kinds of analysis. So we reduce the data that way. And then we'll do regressions to explain the changes.
The question I'm asking, so maybe I should get to, if you have a difference of 8.5 and 8.6, because we're taking policy positions around this, and it should not be purely a statistics thing. You can have statistical significance, but not meaningfully significantly different.
That's true.
So how do you make that interpretation in DP?
Well, you have
Because
to look
I've
at,
had a lot of
yeah, you have to look at the specific case, but sometimes the results are substantively, in other words, on a 0 to 10 scale, particularly if for the kinds of questions where the 5 to 10 range is the effective range of the scale, because they're all plausible, they're all pretty good options. And so if you increase by half a point, you're increasing by a big percentage of the effective range of the scale. So I mean, these are often substantive differences. That's why some of the results we showed in percentages, so you can see the changes. So obviously, you can have a discussion about some cases the changes are small, some cases the changes are big. Also, there were some cases where the changes were surprises. And some cases there were things that went down. And these are all very interesting. So, and we analyzed a lot of different ways. if you could